Alright, cool. Hi, welcome to the Humble Guitarist podcast, and this is episode one. This is going to be about the guitarist's journey or a guitarist journey. I'm the host, Sam McDonald. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about me before we get into this podcast. I've had a guitar in my hand since I was 5 years old. Um, I've always loved the guitar. I've loved the instrument. I love all the music that involves the guitar. It's my favorite instrument ever. There's no topping it. And I've been able to do some pretty cool things. I played in a band called Rock Academy or in Asheville, North Carolina, and we got to play at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame along with a bunch of other great venues. And then I've also got to play alongside my dad in his band for a while, and yeah, I've just enjoyed the process, and I've enjoyed my guitarist journey. Uh, so yeah, I'm really excited to do this podcast, and you can probably hear in my voice I'm pretty sick, but I was just too hyped up to do this, to not do it today. So I'm starting, and we're gonna see how it goes. I'm really excited. Obviously, I already said that, but yeah, just bear with me. I know I'm sick, and hope you enjoy. This is episode one, talking about the guitarist journey. All right, so as a guitarist, I speak for all of us when I say that the journey is the best part of becoming a great guitarist, if that makes any sense. Learning new things and developing your playing and challenging yourself is probably the best thing about the guitar, because it not only teaches you about just how to learn, but it teaches you like what you like and who you are as a person and what you want to be as a guitarist. Now I know that may seem like a lot of things to fit in to just learning guitar, but in this video, I mean, in this podcast, I'm gonna tell you exactly what I mean. So, one funny thing about a guitarist's journey is most guitarists all start at a similar place. So, if this is mostly electric guitars, but if when you get your first electric guitar, you're gonna probably want to get lessons so you can at least understand what you're doing on the guitar. You're not gonna be just fiddling around, you don't know what's going on, or you're gonna go on YouTube. And almost universally, what I find it really funny, almost universally, um, the first song most electric guitarists learn is "Smoke on the Water," and it's easy, really easy, and it's become a meme because I remember the first time I went on like social media to look at um, just a guitar page. It was a meme about 035 and stuff, and it was how like in guitar stores you can't play it; it's a forbidden song, and it's really funny to me. But I find it really reassuring that almost all young guitarists that want to learn start with the same song that I started with, and I never ever I never imagined that. I remember when I first learned like guitar at all. I had the first electric guitar in my hands. I went to my first lesson, and he taught me how to play "Smoke on the Water," and I was like, uh. Wow, I just learned my first song, and I was, so years later, I was like talking to somebody, and they're like, "Look what I learned how to play," and they were playing "Smoke on the Water," and I was like, what the, like, what?" So, I just never realized that, like, universally, that is one of the first songs, if not the first song you learn. So, one thing about a guitar's journey or the guitar's journey is it all starts with a similar like landing pad starting place. It all starts at a similar starting place. Most of us start with some simple songs. One of them might be "Smoke on the Water." If you're me, it was "Smoke on the Water." If you're a lot of us, it was "Smoke on the Water." So, pretty interesting, I think, that it starts in a pretty common place, right? We all start in a pretty common place low, and then we build our way up, and our paths start to change. Our paths go different ways. We spread our wings and fly away and go different ways. But The fact that we all started at similar places, like a beautiful thing. It's what brings us all together as guitarists. Like, okay, that guy might shred a lot, and that guy might play jazz chords, and that guy might just play pop songs and do power chords. Uh, but what all brings us together is that we most likely all started at a similar place, and we all love the guitar. So that's what brings us together, and that's what bonds people with the guitarist journey. Is not only about playing the guitar, finding yourself, but it's about bringing guitarists together and musicians together. That's one thing I love about the guitar. It's a community like no other, and there's so much to be taught. There's so much to learn. There's so much to be just passed around, and music is a beautiful thing. So that's why it makes me so happy to hear that most people start with Smoke on the Water. And so yeah, let's continue with the journey. So Smoke on the Water, starting place, pretty interesting. I love that. So then after that, you start to develop your skills, right? You start to learn how to play some more chords. You start to learn how to play a few other songs more advanced. You start to play all your open chords, and then you start to learn maybe some power chords. You learn a little bit basic soloing, and this is mostly universal electric guitar stuff. This is mostly what everybody does. I mean, there's not really another way to go about it. You start with your chords and your little like easy solos, and then power chords, and then you keep going through those. You keep going through those, you get better. You learn a couple songs, and that's pretty standard. And then once you get to this point, you kind of start to feel like you like maybe a certain genre, a certain style, and you start to pick out more stuff that you like. Like, say you want to learn AC/DC, which was me. I wanted to learn AC/DC songs for a while, and I remember I bought like two different CDs, and I started learning all the songs, and that was really fun for me. And I just feel like most people go through that phase, and then they start to get into the same place where, okay, they can learn a couple songs, they can play a few riffs. That's cool. Yeah, I learned some riffs. Great, great, great. But then you start to develop like where you're not being challenged, right? And that's when people start to go, they start to find styles, and they start to find their own niche and certain things. This is when people who have been playing the electric guitar kind of all find like a little, like they go up their little road, and they find a little place where they haven't been challenged enough, and they haven't really found what they want to do fully. This is where people will most likely start to go off different directions. Some people are going to go play jazz. Some people are going to go up there and play metal. Some people are going to go over there and play pop. Some people are going to go over there and play rock. Some people are going to go over there and study the classics. Some people are going to go over there and be smart and learn the blues, because the blues created almost all that stuff. Anyway, so if you're like me, you went through those phases, and then you get to where that point I'm talking about, and you want to learn something that's going to help you with all the styles. So I went to blues, right? Blues really created a lot of styles, and then jazz and blues kind of, they've actually taken things from each other too, but I started with blues because blues was really inspirational to me, right? I thought it was awesome when I listened to people like BB King, and then later, like, I don't know, all sorts of people, John Mayer and stuff. For some reason, I mean, he's cool to all little like young kids and stuff. They're like, oh, cool, he was so awesome, like, So basically, you go through those phases, and then you get to your style, and you go to a style that is attractive to you, that something about it can like speak to you, and then whatever style you pick is what's gonna define you as a guitarist for a while. You're gonna learn almost all the licks. You're gonna learn most of the famous songs. You're gonna learn how to play like a blues player, how to play like a jazz musician, how to play like whatever, and that's when you're gonna start to become a more developed guitar player for sure. But you're gonna become one type of player too, and that's where you kind of get stuck back in a different type of rut. You're you're not at a low level anymore. You're not a beginner because most likely you've worked all the way through that and you're at intermediate at least. Not advanced probably yet because advanced takes is more knowledge. You have to be constantly wanting more. You have to be constantly trying to learn more. That's what I think advanced is. When you're constantly trying to learn more and you've already gotten through all these levels to where you've already mastered at least one or two styles in such a way. Now you can't truly master a style. There's no such thing. But you've already gotten through these levels with styles, and that's when you can get to advance. When you're still learning more, you're still learning more. You're going for more. You're going for more, and you're never gonna stop going for more. That's advanced to me. So right now, let's say you're just getting to the intermediate level. You're really getting good with one style. This is when you start to really find out who you are as a guitarist. And right now, I'm still going through all the journey. This is your journey. This is your long pathway to greatness as a guitarist. Um, right now, I'm talking about being able to find out what your sound is and who you are as a guitarist, right? This is really important. Um, when you're playing this style, you're going to listen to people, like I said, B.B. King, John Mayer are two main people for me when I was listening to the blues. And I was like, wow, I want to learn all their licks. I want to learn, like, I want to do what they do because that looks amazing and it's shown to work before. And obviously, there's so many people in each genre, but right now I'm just going to talk about them two because they do have somewhat similarities in their playing, but they also have unique things that they do. And I learned a lot from both of them, so I'm going to talk about them right now. But basically, one thing that you can do when you get to that stage is continue to challenge yourself by not staying with the few people you've been listening to. So either you can go ahead and change up your style, start learning jazz, start learning metal, start soloing, doing all these sweep picking, or all the crazy stuff that you don't know how to do yet when you're learning just blues, or you just can start to develop who you are in that world, right? So say we're talking about me. Who is Sam McDonald in the blues world, right? If I'm in the blues world, how am I gonna sound? And this is what I really like. This is where it gets good. This is where it gets really good. Because now you're thinking about, okay, I want to be a great blues player, right? So think about great blues players. We're going to go back to B.B. King and John Mayer. But when you hear B.B. King, he has signature things that he does, right? He's going to go for a long lick, and it's going to be really drawn, and you're going to hear the emotion that he's trying to put into this lick. It's going to be like really, you can see it, you can feel his guitar face. You don't even have to see it, you can feel it. You just know what he's doing. And all guitarists can relate to that. But when he does that, that's B.B. King or somebody trying to copy B.B. King because that is his stuff. That's his stuff, really. And I mean, he made it famous, really. There's obviously more people who've done it and who use those different techniques, but that's his stuff. You know that. You know who it is. There's all sorts of people like that. Like, I don't know. When I think of Led Zeppelin, I think of the great innovation of Jimmy Page. He just made all these riffs and all these different types of guitar style and stuff, and that just really that's what inspires me. Is when I hear all these different innovations and things that define a guitarist, that ultimately defines their band. Because for B.B. King, when I hear that, I know it's him. When I hear certain riffs, I know it's Jimmy Page. I'm like, wow. Or I know it's inspired by Jimmy Page, something like that. So that's where you develop, like, okay, I want to be known as me and not as B.B. King and not as Jimmy Page, not as John Mayer, not as whoever. I want to be known as who I am as a guitarist, and that's where expressing yourself through your instrument really becomes real, because now you've learned enough to actually take your playing to a next level where you're not just playing other people's stuff, you're playing your stuff. And sorry, like I said, I'm sick, so I need to drink a lot of water. But so now you're not just playing somebody else's stuff, you're playing your stuff. This is when you create your own types of riffs, your own type of licks, and say, this is where you create your signature sound. This is all part of your journey. when you create a signature sound, that's when you say, okay, every solo I'm gonna start off with a little slide in or a hammer on, and then I'm gonna do a couple of bends. I'm gonna bend down a little bit. I'm gonna do a couple little pull offs. I'm gonna go up and down the couple scales real quick. Whatever you're gonna do. It doesn't really. That's not really what the point is. The point is you're finding out what sounds good to you and what makes you unique from others, because we all have different ears, we all have different minds, and this is where, like I said, we all start at a similar spot, we all start at a similar place, sometimes all at the same place, and then we go up through these levels and we're in a similar place, but then we get just to the tippy top and we're almost getting there. We're like intermediate, you know, but we're not amazing. That's when we just split. We all become our own people, and it's just like, to me, it's just like maturity. It's maturity in general, because when you grow up, you start off as a little kid, in a classroom with a bunch of other little kids. You don't know what you think yet. Somebody's gonna tell you, "Hey, believe this, do that," and you don't know what you think. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what's going on. You're a little kid. It's just life, and you're just living it. But then you get older, and you're like, okay, I like the color red, right? Or I like the color blue, or I like, you're like, I like this type of music, I like that type of music. And you're like, oh, I like this type of food, I like burgers, well, I like pizza. There's this kid, he likes pizza and he's weird, but there's this other kid who likes burgers, he's cool. It is what it is. You keep going, and it gets further and further and further, and then you got doctors, you got lawyers, you got construction workers, you got politicians, you got all sorts of people, you got musicians. You got guitarists, you got singers, you got drummers, you got people all over the spectrum. It's just like life, and that's what guitar is. Guitar is like life. You can take it and turn it into a metaphor for life, and that's really what I'm trying to show you, is that in your life, your guitar life, you need to be able to define who you are and what makes you you, and find your own sound. This is what the journey is about. For younger players, that's my goal for you, is that you find out who you are, or at least who you want to be as a guitarist. And then not only once you get there, you have to find out how you want to sound, how you want to play. And I'm not really talking about like amp tone or guitar tone or type of guitar. I'm talking about what you can do with your two hands when you're playing. What can you do with your two hands when you're playing a guitar? When you're playing a nice guitar over here with two hands and possibly a pick, sometimes not a pick, what you can do with two hands is more important right now than it is what you can do with a couple pedals and a nice tone setup on your amp, or a Les Paul or a Telecaster or whatever you got. To develop your own personal sound, especially younger guitarists who are still learning, you gotta find out what you can personally do with your two hands that's innovative. It follows what you like and what you want to hear out of your musical ability. That's when you really find out who you are and developing what you want to be. So, yeah, and that's really the biggest step in the journey. And then to take it a step further, I would say I'm still kind of in this area, right? Like, okay, I found out kind of what makes me me a little bit. I'm gonna improve way more in the next like few months and years, when I'm just gonna be practicing all the time. But it's not really the point. It's not about me right now. It's really about the journey. Um, so let's say we get to this level where we kind of know what we like and what we sound like and what we want to hear out of ourselves when we play, and what we expect to hear out of ourselves when we play. That's when we make expectations of ourselves, right? So I have standards for when I play now, and most people do. They're like, okay, every time I take a solo, it's gonna be this good, or it's gonna be this good, or it's gonna be this. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be whatever it is, right? When you take a solo, it's gonna be like that, and then when you take when you play chords, you're gonna hit these chords in the right way. You're gonna have enough intensity. You're gonna be able to take dynamics, and you're gonna be able to use those dynamics throughout the whole song. You're gonna be able to carry a band with your chords, do whatever you gotta do. But those are expectations you make for yourself, because now you know how you sound, right? So then you take it a step further. How do I keep challenging myself? How do I keep developing? How do I keep getting better? Right? So you learn more scales. You go back to the scales. You learn more scales. You learn more theory. You start learning music theory, like really good music theory. Like you learn stuff that I'm learning because I don't know music theory good enough. And you just learn things, and you expand your knowledge, and then you start to collaborate with other musicians. They teach you things that you don't know yet. They teach you things that you didn't even understand, and that's when you really start to open your mind. You start to see what's really out there for you as a guitarist. And then sometimes you delve into other styles and you say, okay, there's jazz scales that I don't even know how to play. And there's jazz music that I can't even do the chords for. Maybe I should start learning that because it's going to make me become a lot better. Or you say, okay, I can't do a bunch of sweep picking and then do a bunch of tapping and solos and, I'm pretty decent at what I do with the blues or whatever, but I can't do that. So then you take it a step further. You start taking on another style. You start developing another style. And then this is where the innovation comes in. You start to get to a point with that style where you're like, okay, I got a handle on this. I love this. I'm doing good. And you start learning more music theory, right? This is where it's important to learn music theory because then you're going to take stuff from that style and use it in your own style and make your own playing even more complex and more developed and more your own because now you've unlocked more stuff on the guitar you didn't know was even possible. This is where it gets really exciting for me because you're starting to learn things you didn't even know about on the guitar. You didn't know about this stuff. You didn't know you could do this. And you start adding that into your playing. You start adding that into your old normal stuff that you used to do. You're not being boring. You're not boring yourself anymore. You're embracing something that you didn't know you could do. That's where it gets so exciting. It's like testing your potential. It's just like life. You got to do things that you didn't know you could do. You got to surprise yourself. You got to be able to find things for yourself, and you got to be able to take them and combine it with what you know, and just that's how you develop. That's just how you develop. And so for guitar, like for me, I've really always enjoyed just the things I knew how to do, and I got really bored eventually of just doing the same old things, and I was like, I'm gonna keep innovating. I'm gonna keep doing new stuff with the same old scales, right? And this is where you have to learn more stuff eventually. You can't just get so good at the stuff you know that you don't need more stuff because this is where you just keep learning. And I mean, another thing about the guitarist journey. So, right, you went up all these levels with all these other people, right? But there's always 200, 2,000 people so much better than you. And I know that sounds really like depressing or whatever, but if you want to make it a little bit competitive, there's always people so much better than you. And when you really take pride in your ability to play, which most good guitarists do, and that's when ego gets in the way. But we're gonna talk about that in maybe a different podcast. But when you take your playing to that next level and then you're able to compare yourself to other people in the right ways. You're not saying, "Oh, I'm better than you." You're not saying, "Oh, they're so much better than me. I could never be. That's unattainable." You're not saying any of that. You're saying, "Okay, this is what they can do. This is what I can do. What can they do that I'm not doing that could possibly benefit me?" Right? And then you could take what they're doing and you implement it into your playing, you get better. And that's really all it's about. But yes, there are people so much better than you, and you look at yourself and you're like, okay, I'm good at doing this, right? I'm good at doing that. I got these melodies down. I got these chords so good. But then there's somebody who's gonna be so much better than you, and that's where you gotta humble yourself. The podcast is called Humble Guitarist because this is about humbling yourself and constantly learning to take your playing to the next level and really understand who you are as a player. You can't ever stop learning. That's the whole thing I really want to press in over the rest of the podcast is about humbling yourself to learn more because great, you mastered this, you mastered that. But there's more that you haven't learned. There's more that you haven't mastered. I mean, you can't really say you're a master of the guitar because there is no such thing. But there's always things you can try and there's always things you can learn. So with the journey of the guitarist back to that, basically I know I've been drinking a lot of water, but like I said, again, I'm really sick. Gotta get water and fluids in me. So hopefully I'll make a great recovery and I can expand my playing more because I'll be feeling good. Even though I've been playing a ton, just in general, drink water. It's good for you. So basically, back to the journey, right? So y'all went from where we're basically growing up the same way with the guitar. We learned Smoke on the Water, and we started to play some riffs, beginner songs, whatever. And then we started to spread out. We started to go to our different paths, our different ways, different genres, different styles. And we started to develop those styles. We started to develop our own sound. This is really good. Develop our own sound. That's really, really good. And then you go from there and you start to delve into the other styles that you don't know about. And that's really good too. You know that you don't know any other styles, so you start to learn those. And then you start to look at other people who are better than you and you say, hey, I'm going to get just as good as that guy. I'm going to get it just as good as that guy. I'm going to just keep getting better. And that's really good too. So now what do, right? You've learned all this stuff. You've experimented, you've gotten better, you've learned from other people. I think this is where you kind of have to take a different route of challenging yourself, right? I think this is where music theory comes into play. For a lot of guitarists, it's really scary to learn how to like compose and how to like read sheet music. That's another meme that I didn't catch on for a while, but then I did, and now I'm learning sheet music, and it's kind of hard, but I'm gonna get good at it. It's fine. So yeah, learning sheet music, just getting your theory up is one thing, but if you're already in the advanced levels, you probably are already pretty good at that, or at least know how to do that. So this is where putting your own pieces together. This is where creativity, I think, plays the biggest role because all right, so you've gotten all these things under your belt as a guitarist. This is where you got to be really creative and you can start developing your own riffs and your own songs and your own whatever. And I mean, okay, maybe you sing, maybe you don't. It's also a good time to start to develop your voice, start to develop maybe another instrument, which I try to learn a little bit about piano, and I'm still learning. But learning a little bit of piano actually helps me understand like how the guitar is different and better than the piano in certain ways. But anyway, so as in the journey of a guitarist, you're gonna go. You're gonna start learning some theory, and you're gonna be like, bet. I understand how to read sheet music. I can read sheet music for guitar. Let's go. You're gonna start creating. You're gonna start developing, and you're gonna just start going nuts, and it's gonna be great. And I mean, I believe everyone that's listening to this video has probably created some riffs before, and that's when. So you're in the creative stage of your journey, because I like this word journey, because Journey is like Journey is a good band. No, Journey is good because it it really means you're going from somewhere and then you're going to somewhere. And when you get there, you're different than you were when you started. And that's really what the journey means to me. And a guitar's journey means you're starting somewhere and then at the end you're going to be completely different, but you're also going to be who you are truly, which is really what I love about the guitar because it's shown me things about me, right? And then the connections I've made with it. It's guitar is a whole entire family. It's a whole community. Just the love for the guitar. I mean, maybe I don't like to listen to people shred as much as the next guy, but I respect them, the people who can do that. I really do. And they respect me for the talents that I have because they know how hard it is to do what I'm doing as well. It is hard for them to do what they're doing because we've all went through those stages. And we all went through those things together. And now we have respect for each style and each thing that we do. I have so much respect for jazz guitarists, but it's not my favorite thing to play. And I'm not the best at it. But I'm going to keep learning. I'm going to keep doing it, keep learning it until I get good at it. But, so more water. Um, so that's where was I? Journey. So you're learning music theory and you're creating. So you've created something, and let's say you create your first couple songs or you create your first couple riffs. This is when you really gotta be brave, right? I know not a lot of guitarists really know where I'm going with this one, but you gotta show other people what you're creating. And a lot of people don't really, they're like, what? You gotta show other people what? Like, what? It doesn't really make any sense to me. I mean, I'm good. I'm gonna stay in my room all day and I'm gonna just keep playing my same old Jimi Hendrix riff that I worked 100 months to learn how to do all of his Little Wing solo because I'm so cool, you know, those guys. Um, you can't just stay in your room and play guitar and post videos online every day. You got to go out and you got to be around other guitarists and you got to really learn. And obviously, if you're already at this stage, you've most likely already been out and maybe even played gigs. You've probably been in maybe a small time band or a big time band or whatever. And you've probably just played with some people around. And you might know a few people that play guitar. You're not the only one, at least. But, this is where you gotta really show people what you have and what you can do and what you've created. This is really important. You show them what you've created and then they give you feedback. So you know what in general other people around you think about what you're making. And this is where, so yeah, obviously find out who you are and who you want to be as a musician and who you're trying to be as a musician. But then you take other people's opinions and criticisms into play, and those can really shape your playing more, right? So somebody says, I think you hold that bend a little too long, or I think you need to change up your tone. It doesn't really sound like you enough. It doesn't sound juicy enough, whatever. Or I think you stay on that riff a little too long. Maybe you should switch it up. Maybe you do this too much, right? This is where it's really important. You decide what you're going to do about your playing. You decide if you're going to change your playing at all. You decide what you're going to do, period. But what it really means is you can take other people's opinions into account in shaping who you are, right? So, I mean, we all face criticism. We all face other people's opinions. We all face people who don't really like us and don't want to hear what we have to do. So what we can do to work around that is you can play things that people like. If you don't have to play what you like all the time. You can play stuff that other people like, and that's how you get more fans following whatever you're going for. But you get the more fans, and the more fans you get, the more followers you get, the more whatever you get. It doesn't really mean anything. It could eventually help you have monetary value from your guitar, but it's not really the goal. The goal is that if you can bring joy to more people in the community of music, the musicians, anything, and if you can make more people happy with your playing, that really should be one of your goals too. You shouldn't just want to make yourself happy. And then also, you need to be able to develop your ear to where you can hear what is good for other people too. So you're not just playing to yourself, because you don't want to be selfish. Your playing isn't about you so much as it is about others too. Now, I know I've been talking about finding who you are as a player and all that, but you want to make something that other people can enjoy. So I got you to the creativity stage with this talk, right? And most of you are probably already around that creative. You might even be at the creativity stage, but you haven't even found your own style. You haven't even found out what you sound like. Because people love to create. Creating is great for you. It's good for your soul. It lets out things that you didn't even know you had. And once again, it shows you what your potential is, because you become innovative as a guitarist. You're not just the same old guy. You're doing something new, and that's what creating is about, and it's what it's for. And it really shows you more about who you are. But when you create, once you start to be a little more like calculated with your creations, you can begin to understand like what another person is going to think about your creations. They're going to be like, oh, that sounds too whatever, and this is a big problem for me. I always think that I always think that my like creations or whatever, I'm listening to them so biased because I think I'm so good, right? I have this ego and this pride that I'm trying to get rid of. I'm pushing it away, but pushing it away, trying to get rid of it. But I know that a lot of guitarists deal with this, so I'm gonna bring it up. Um, we think that because the way it sounds to us is very, very good, very, very awesome, so great. We sound so good. Oh my gosh. And you put that on a loop pedal, you listen to it, you're like, oh, that sounds great. I could maybe improve my timing, whatever. But then when you show that to other people, you gotta understand that they're not always gonna like what you like as a guitar player. Now, this is when it comes into play. Like people like Tommy Emmanuel, maybe. He's an amazing guitarist, but he doesn't sing or anything. And I think for the average listener, they're not always going to enjoy just guitar. They're going to want the singing, they're going to want the full band, they're going to want stuff like that. And that's something he doesn't really offer. So his fan base has become a lot of guitar enthusiasts or just guitarists in general that enjoy his type of playing and type of music. And I love his type of playing. I think it's great. I'm not hitting on, like, dissing him or whatever, but I do think that when you want to become like when you want to bring joy and bring musical value to a broad audience, it's not just your select few people that enjoy guitar in itself. That's when you got to expand your horizons, and you got to really. I'm not saying pander to people. I'm not saying play whatever they want you to play. I'm not saying play the classics again that you've already learned 100 times. I'm not saying play the music that's most popular at the time. I'm just saying you can tailor your music and tailor your guitar playing around what people will enjoy, and then your creations will become more universally accepted, and that's how you'll get your sound and you'll get your signature licks and stuff like that. I mean, most guitarists don't think the one riff that they created that they didn't even like it that much. Most of the time, the riff that they don't even like that much is the one that ends up taking off and bringing them to new heights and getting them signed, getting them whatever. Those riffs are the ones that actually bring them the most feet, like give them the most back, I would say, for their hard work and creation. So this is where I think after you've created and you've learned and you keep learning. So one of my main goals for your journey is continue to learn no matter what. Always learn something. This is where you go back to people again. You have to find other guitarists that are better than you again, and you have to talk to them and tell them, hey, like, this is what I have. I want you to tell me as a guitarist, what do you think I should do to improve? Because most likely they've been going through a similar thing, and if they're at a similar place um, in their guitar life or guitar journey, and that's when you're gonna go to them and you're gonna ask them, hey, what can I do to get better? And then you can tell them what they can do to get better or whatever, and you gotta be able to accept your criticisms and accept your other like advices and different things, because your ego as a guitar player is a dangerous thing. It's a dangerous thing. Like guitarists and musicians in general, but mostly guitarists have a major ego and pride problem. Seriously. Seriously. Like I had it. I know a bunch of kids who had it. Like it's just I mean have it. There's so many people who have it. They just think that because they've worked on guitar and done things that you don't do, such as like, I mean, I don't want to call them names or say anything, but a lot of those metalheads, they really like to think that they're better than you because they can do some sweeps and some picking and some fast licks and things, and they think they're anyway. So it's really where I think now that you've become this good at guitar and you know you're confident in your skills, you gotta humble yourself. This is Humble Guitarist Podcast, the Humble Guitarist Podcast. I'm being humble and coming to you and telling you whatever I can to help you grow as a person, as a guitarist, as a musician, as a friend. I want to be your friend. I'm just telling you, you have to humble yourself. You have to humble yourself in your journey. It's all about starting out. You start out in humble beginnings. And those humble beginnings, they're not beginnings anymore, but you're still humble. I don't know if that really hit anybody, but it hit me. You gotta continue to be humble no matter how good you get. I've watched countless videos with people that are, renowned guitarists that are just beyond comprehension. They're amazing. And you know them because of their playing. They're still so humble. They're still so humble. Like you get famous, doesn't mean you're not humble anymore. You know you can still learn. That's how you get famous. Is you know that you're still learning, you're still humble, you're still trying to learn. You're not giving up learning yet because you know that learning is a lifelong process. Learning is always going to be happening in the guitar world, in the guitar community. And that's where, like, okay, I see videos of people playing solos, right? Maybe I don't like the solo, and then I go through the comment section and people are like, "Oh, this solo sucks. His tone is trash, and he's constantly going this one lick. He has no dynamics. He doesn't go from one place to another place. He's just showing off with one lick over and over again as fast as he can." Right? That's a common thing that happens with guitarists. They're like, "Oh wow, I learned how to do this. I'm gonna keep on doing it, keep on doing it, keep on doing it. I'm gonna get so fast with it." And then in their solo, they're just constantly doing this one thing, but it's not tasteful as much as it is like show offy. That's where they gotta be humble and they gotta continue to learn things. But when you're doing comments or whatever, right? You're not gonna be. If you were the guy in that solo, you wouldn't want to see somebody say, "Oh, that solo was so garbage." You would rather hear somebody go, "Well, it looks like they did a lot of this one thing, and I feel like their tone could improve in these areas. But I do give them props for playing a really pretty decent solo, and I just think they could improve or whatever." You want to be construct. This is one thing I encourage all the guitarist community to do. Honestly, musicians in general, but I encourage musicians and guitarists to start to be way more supportive and critical, but constructive, of all of our people in the community. And I mean, helping each other grow is a great thing. And you're not just doing it to grow, though. You're doing it because telling somebody else what you think is great, but telling them in a way that can help them and not hurt them is a better thing. That's a way better thing. And now I've talked about your guitar journey this whole video mostly, but so now if you're up here and you're telling other people what you think about their stuff, you gotta also accept your criticisms of your things, and you can't be too like, whatever. I don't want to accept my criticism because my stuff's too good for you, but and this goes back to another thing. So uh, if somebody's a beginner, it doesn't mean you have the right to tell them, "Oh, you suck," or "Oh, your playing's not good." It's the same thing as if my 9-year-old little cousin is learning how to play guitar, and I'm teaching him, right, and his first solo didn't sound that good. But let's be honest, didn't sound that good. But he is 9, and it's only like his first, couple months of playing guitar, so learning a solo kind of difficult at that stage, right? So respect music for music's sake. Don't try to tear down others' music because it's not as good as something else you've heard or something else you think is good. Because remember, music is objective, and this is where guitar's journey also is subjective. Because, like I said, we all start somehow the same place in a way, but once we get up there where we're judging others, that's where we have to humble ourselves. But we also have to remember that everybody's at a different stage of that development than we are. We're not, just because they're doing something different than us, but even if they get more famous than us, it doesn't mean that they suck. It just means they're at a different place than we are. And that's when we can help them get better and get into the next stage by doing the different steps that I talked about all the way through this whole entire podcast, because I just think it's so important that as a community, we really embrace the journey and we support each other as a community, And that's how we'll have so much innovation in like the guitar world, like so much innovation and so much creativity, and we can at least admire and respect those who are having success, but we can also constructively help them get better and then help ourselves get better, and we can see, okay, what are they doing that's working, and what am I doing that can help them. I mean, that's one thing I've loved about guitar. I remember when I was in Rock Academy band type thing, there's this older dude. He was like 18 and I was like 13, and he was doing all these crazy solos and stuff. And I was just asking him. I was like, "Hey, can you show me how to do that? Can you show me what you're doing?" And he explained it to me, and most of it went over my head. But then I started to understand. Okay, this is what he did. He started to take apart some jazz stuff and use it into his rock, or use it into his metal solo that he was doing. And I was like, interesting. So jazz is like metal, just without the distortion. But not exactly. No, not really at all. But it did show me a different side of the musicality, and then I realized that he knows so much more music theory than me, and I just felt stupid. So that's when I also took that to my next level. Started learning music theory because that's important. Wow, voice crack. I think. Wow, look. Oh my gosh, I've almost finished this water. Um, so music theory. I got one more sip. Let me go ahead and take this sip. So, another thing in the whole entire guitar journey is that a lot of guitarists want to refuse stuff that seems hard or challenging because they've gotten into a place where they're comfortable. And if you're here at the end of this video, I mean, at the end of this video slash podcast, I really want you to hear this because this is so important to any guitarist. When you're at a place where you want to stay where you are and you don't want to learn something that's hard or challenging, you're like, oh, okay, I'll do that tomorrow. I'll do that next day. I'll do that next week. Uh, that's really dangerous because it means you're at a place where you might not get better for a while. You might not get better at all if you really just want to stay, if you're stubborn. So that's where I say you want to always be developing, like I said. But if you're at a place where learning something seems too hard or too challenging, or you can't do it, or you're telling yourself, I'm just not up for that. That's dangerous. You really gotta. I don't know. It's like music theory. Like most guitarists don't want to learn how to read sheet music. They refuse to do that for so long, and then it just seems so daunting when they're like, okay, I'm gonna start. And this is me. This is literally what happened to me. Like, oh, I'm gonna start learning music theory, and they get about a couple weeks in. This happened to me. Get a couple weeks in, and they're already ready to quit. Already ready to quit. It's just like something that seems hard for you could quite possibly be the most beneficial thing that you learn in your guitar like journey, that I keep going back to, the journey, right? Everybody's journey is different, and it might not happen the same way it happened for me, for you, but when you get to something like learning sheet music, which I'm still not that amazing at, I'm getting better, um, that's when you develop, say, from young guitarist who learned everything he could but kind of got to a plateau and stopped. You develop from that to advanced level of, I'm willing to learn things that are challenging. I'm willing to try things that seem hard. I'm willing to do daunting tasks to become better because I care that much about my guitar. I care that much about my guitar and my development that I'm going to continue to work. I'm going to continue to get better. That's where you got to work. You just got to work. You just can't you can't let your guitar go, even if it's a hobby. You just can't let it go. You have to keep working, and you can't just stay in the same place that you've been in. And I know a lot of people do. They stay where they've been, or they stay where they are comfortable. But it's just like in life, again, it's an analogy for life. Guitar is almost like life. It's just a metaphor for life. When you're staying in a place of comfortability, you're not growing. You're not growing. You stay in a place where you're comfortable, you're not growing. You want to constantly growing as a guitar player. You don't want to just let it go and stop growing, because if you stop growing, you're going to get worse. You're going to get a lot worse. And then everybody else is going to pass you by, and you're going to look at them and be like, hey, what happened to me? And they're going to be like, yo, you stopped growing. You just stopped learning stuff. And they're going to be that little kid who is still 5 foot, and everybody else is 6'3", and you're looking up to them, and they're like, you stopped growing. And you're going to be like, what'd I do? Why did I stop growing? And they're like, you stopped eating your vegetables. And your vegetables, you know what your vegetables are? Your vegetables are changing your strings. People, change your strings. Stop having these grimy strings on your freaking guitars. That stuff is nasty. That stuff is so nasty. You have these grime all on your guitar. Get the elixir strings. Get something. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Um, when you stop growing, you really kill any development you have, because, like I said, being advanced in my opinion, being advanced in guitar knowledge is that you're still learning. You're still learning new things, and you're not just quitting because you don't want to be uncomfortable. You want to stay comfortable with the stuff you've accomplished, right? So I don't know if you remember. It's hard for me to remember because I've been playing for so long now. It's hard for me to remember this, but do you remember how hard it was for you when you first started? When you first picked up a guitar? How hard was it to make your first G chord or your first C chord? How hard was that? You were trying to figure out where your fingers needed to go. You were trying to push down hard enough. You were trying to get the strings, not to hurt that bad. You're trying to get calluses. Just, you were trying to do all these things that were so, like, new and challenging and uncomfortable and daunting. All of those things, all of the above, all combined into one. All of those things. You're trying to do all those things, but that's how you get started. So, if it's that hard to start, then it might be close to that hard again when you want to expand yourself. And that's something you have to embrace. You said, okay, I'm going to start guitar, right? And you have this determination to get through the beginning and learn the beginning. And then everything starts to become easier from there. But then it gets hard again. And that's where you can't just stop. You can't just stop learning. And it's really sad because, it's happened to me before where I've been like, okay, I'm at a place where I'm good. Like, I know what I'm doing. And I don't feel like learning that. I don't feel like learning sheet music. I don't feel like learning this. I don't feel like learning that. But you can't quit, and you can't stop developing. Development is what it is about. You're developing yourself. You're developing your own sound. You're developing what you are as a player. I've been saying this the whole video. But to become a truly great guitarist, you don't only develop who you are as a guitarist and your sound. You develop your mind. You develop your brain. You develop your ability to learn new things and how to just get better at anything. If you learn how to get great at guitar, you're going to learn how to get great at business. You're going to learn how to get great at whatever, because it teaches you to have the drive you need. Teaches you to have the drive you need to get better. When you overcome those little humps, okay, say you don't love business, so you're not going to get great at it. But if you love your guitar, you truly love learning, and you truly love playing on your guitar and developing, you're going to get over these humps. And the bigger humps and the bigger hills that you're going to try and conquer, they're not going to seem that bad. They're not going to be that bad. Because you're going to get over them. And you're going to get over the next one. You're going to get over the next one. You're going to keep climbing the mountain. Keep climbing the mountain. You're going to keep climbing these mountains. You're going to get where you need to get if you love learning and you love playing the guitar. And all I can really give to you from this episode 1 that I don't think you'll get anywhere else is that the most important thing you can do for getting better at guitar in your journey, no matter what stage you're at, is never look at anything never look at any piece of information about music or never look at any solo, never look at any song, never look at any time, anything that seems could seem hard to somebody new, somebody old, somebody whatever, anything that could seem hard, never look at it as impossible. Never look at it as too hard for me. Never look at it as too challenging. Never look at it as something I don't feel like doing. Never look at it as uncomfortable if you can. Try to never look at something as uncomfortable. If you can keep something in your mind as not uncomfortable, as fine, as fun, as just something you can accomplish, keep everything attainable in your mind. Keep everything attainable. Nothing is impossible, especially when it comes to your guitar and your hands. You can do anything with these hands and with your guitar. Everything is attainable. Everything is possible. All you have to do is humble yourself, learn from others, learn new material, and never, never say a challenge is too hard or too crazy or too unattainable for me, because you're going to get there, you're going to do it, you're going to accomplish things you could not accomplish before, and you're going to be able to do it. I mean, there's just nothing about it. And I mean, so yeah. So I'm going to talk a little bit about me and my journey now. So my guitar journey, I took like most of what I said. I took the very beginning very quickly. I thought, okay, these are easy songs, Smoke on the Water, whatever. AC/DC, that's great. I can accomplish that, no problem. And I don't know, it took me a few years before I really got past like rock and stuff like that. And I was just doing the classic rock songs and just dealing with those and doing riffs. But those riffs ended up being pretty hard. And then a couple years on down the line, I was like, hey, I want to get better. Like, I want to really get better. I'm sick of just playing pentatonic licks every day and playing the same old stuff and just, So I learned a few more scales, like started to learn some modes, and that seemed so hard and so unattainable and so challenging to me. And I was like, I can't learn these modes. Look at this Mixolydian. What the freak is that? What is this Lydian scale? What is this Mixolydian crap? Are you kidding? What is Locrian? Are you trying to speak to me in German? Locrian? Are you serious? Like, what? What? So anyway, eventually I had a guitar teacher at the time that was pretty cool and pretty nice. Wasn't my favorite guitar teacher, but he was a cool dude. He was bald, and he liked eating cheese on the weekends, and he really enjoyed cheese curds, and he just was freaking weird. He liked fondue. Anyway, whatever. It's weird. His breath smelled really bad, so I would be like, what? So he told me, hey, let's work on the modes. We're going to get the modes down, and after you get a few of the scales under your belt, you're going to learn all of it, and you're going to be fine with it. So I did. Started going through all the scales. And I started learning them, and then I was like, great, I finally did that. Now how do I really use this? Like, what can I do to use this? What is it gonna help me with? And I got like really pissed off because like it feels like a lot of work, and I don't know actually how to use it. And I think I have another water bottle. I'm gonna get it real quick. Red alert. I do not have more water. I will die. Anyway, I'm fine. I don't need water. So, I remember I was really frustrated. I was like, what am I learning these scales for? How are they really going to help me? What is this going to provide me? And then I kind of just went ahead and did it. And then later on, I learned, okay, this really does help me with a few things, and I can learn how to make more creative solos. And that's when I got pretty jazzy for a little bit. I was like, cool, jazz. And sorry for the voice cracks. Once again, very sick. Trying to not be sick right now. That's why I'm drinking so much water. So went through those, and then I kind of didn't really work on guitar for a few years. I was playing basketball, doing other stuff, and I kind of regret that, because if I kept playing guitar like hardcore for at least most of that time, like still playing a lot, I would be twice the player I am now, because it was just a little bit of like stunted my growth type stuff where I was like, oh, I'm not playing as much right now. I don't need to play every day. I'm cool. I was probably playing once a week, maybe twice a week. I remember one time I didn't play for like 3 weeks, and I started to feel really crappy, because obviously my guitar is a part of me, and that's where you realize like expressing yourself through your instrument is so important to your soul and so important to just life. But you know, so I really started to embrace it again, like maybe a year or two later, and I was like just playing in my room every day, just having fun. I think this is after I kind of stopped doing Rock Academy, so I wasn't playing gigs, and I played with my dad a couple times out live, and it was fun. And he was like, "Yeah, you still got it, you're good." And that was when I decided that, okay, I can be really good at this. Like, I can really be good. So I'm gonna just go ahead and go full throttle. And then I just took it to a new level, and now I'm at this point where I'm just trying to learn new stuff every day. I'm trying to learn more stuff every day. I'm trying to take something that seems hard, break it down, make it easier, and use it in my playing in some way. And also, I'm teaching others, because I want to spread the knowledge that I have gained over this time. I want to spread that knowledge to others. So I have a couple students that I teach. I got a 9-year-old kid, um, and I'm teaching him from the ground up, and I want him to understand the same things I love about guitar, that he hopefully will love about guitar, that constantly learning and trying to find your sound is what it's about. And then I want to teach this. I have an older kid who he's about 13, and he's learning how to solo, and I want him to spread to him the infectious nature of the styles and the knowledge, um, that like once you start learning, you just can't stop. You can't stop. Just like the Red Hot Chili Pepper song, uh, you can't stop learning stuff, because it's just it just really is refreshing. It helps your soul, and it helps you to develop and just never stop. So yeah, final words for this video is whoever you are, whatever guitar you have, whatever style you like to play, don't ever stop because you don't feel like it, or because it's a little too hard, or in your mind you're already too good, or your ego's too good, or you're too above, or you're too this, too that, too whatever it is. Always humble yourself, because this is the Humble Guitarist podcast, and I'm Sam McDonald, and keep playing. Just keep playing. Let's do it. Let's keep playing. Let's just get better. Let's all become the best guitarists we can be. And thank you for listening to episode 1 of my podcast, Humble Guitarist, and it should be out by Sunday. And I really enjoyed talking about the guitarist journey. Yeah, and it's been really, really fun. Stay tuned for episode 2. It's going to be out weekly. And yeah, that's about it. Have a good week, and I'll see you next week. Peace. Peace.